Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today we got some pretty jarring news about the future of Battlefield 5. The game's senior producer Ryan MacArthur published an update on the game's website saying, "As you are aware, the current Battlefield 5 chapter Into the Jungle wraps up on April 29. As we look to the future, we will release one more standalone update this summer that brings with it some new content, weapons, and game tweaks. We are targeting June for this update. We're still tackling the challenges from working from home, and we'll let you know how things progress for us over the next month." Later in this post, MacArthur reaffirms DICE's commitment to working on anti-cheat and expanding the community game system. As soon as this post went live, several people took it to mean DICE is pulling the plug on Battlefield 5's live service updates, and that certainly looks to be the case. The official Battlefield Twitter account has clarified that there won't be a Tides of War Chapter 7. The standalone update this summer is effectively the game's final content update. It will include new content, weapons, and game tweaks. A new map with the working name Libya is one of the maps in development for the summer update. So basically, Battlefield 5 is going to be over very soon. Considering DICE didn't reveal any details about the year plans for this game, I can't say that this news comes as a total surprise. Since launch, Battlefield 5 has persisted as this enigma of a game. The reveal trailer set the fan base on fire. People were so outraged and upset by the version of the game that the trailer presented. Ultimately, though, the game that launched had way bigger issues than a bionic woman or a British soldier with a katana. Battlefield 5 launched like most Battlefield titles do, a buggy, imbalanced mess. But unlike most of the other titles in the franchise, DICE never turned things around with Battlefield 5. It still has that unrefined feeling it did at launch in so many ways. It's not well polished, it's not very cohesive, and there's still many balance issues and vehicle problems. That's not to say that DICE didn't try. Most of the maps they added post-launch have been pretty good. The new weapons are all interesting and add a ton of diversity to the game. The Pacific update was an incredible step in the right direction, and while the 5.2 TTK update really screwed things up for the game, it was eventually reverted. The Battlefield 5 we're playing today is a massive improvement over the one that launched in 2018, but that's never been enough of an improvement for many players, myself included. And from a purely business or monetary perspective, I can't say I blame DICE for ending support on Battlefield 5. Nobody's really been talking about this game for a while. The content coming out for it has been decent at best, and throwing more money into this game when they could be focusing on the next Battlefield game really doesn't make a whole lot of sense business-wise, other than trying to save your image. But at this point, I'm not sure if that would have even been possible. Almost every Battlefield title has had a pretty rough launch, but DICE always managed to turn things around. Unfortunately, it speaks volumes about the screw-ups of Battlefield 5's development that DICE are now pulling the plug rather than sticking with it to turn it into that Battlefield game that I think the fan base was always hoping it would become. It really sucks that we're never going to get the epic battles of World War II, or be able to relive the battles that we experienced in the original Battlefield game 1942 in a more updated version of the franchise. Battlefield 5 was an opportunity for DICE to make the most incredible looking World War II game ever. Just imagine D-Day, Stalingrad, the Battle of Berlin, or any other major battle from World War II in Battlefield 5. It would have been incredible looking. Knowing we could have gotten to see those iconic battles but now never will makes it all that much more frustrating. Ultimately, that's what Battlefield 5 is in a nutshell, just untapped potential. In fact, that was my initial review for Battlefield 5. Potential for greatness. Potential being the key word there. DICE had to stick with it and make the right decisions, which unfortunately they didn't. So, where does this leave the Battlefield fan base? An unfinished World War II game that just never really got balanced out or reached its full potential. Well, I think everyone wants a return to something like Battlefield 4. The modern military setting just gives DICE so much more freedom to experiment and deliver an experience that's both relatable and exciting. The historical eras are a bit more limited to what people expect based on movies or literature they've read about those time periods. A big part of why Battlefield 5 was so poorly received was that we all share a common perception of World War II based on incredible movies and TV shows that we've grown up watching. Especially when it comes to historical things, we really want our video games games to mimic what we've seen in movies and TV. DICE went against many of the common themes and realities of World War II in making Battlefield 5, but they could have salvaged the situation had they also claimed to be the most authentic World War II experience ever, which they absolutely did not. Going with a modern military or fictional era would give DICE so much more freedom to do whatever they want. Maybe that means soldiers with prosthetic limbs, maybe that means maps set in unfamiliar locations, and maybe that means we don't have a game that's reliant on our preconceived notions of how a certain battle should be. But at the same time, the games that seem to do the best are the ones that are new and exciting. Just look at Apex Legends, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Death Stranding, or The Outer Worlds. They all took conventional game design and turned it on its head with new and exciting concepts. The immense talent for theatrical presentation and design at DICE could go wild in a setting not strictly tied to reality. It's not hard for me to imagine Battlefield 6 being a great game that does all the things that I've loved about the franchise, but at the same time, Battlefield 5 has conditioned me to expect bad decisions from DICE. I don't believe in their fundamental decision making at the company right now, as almost every single decision they made with Battlefield 5, in my opinion, was a bad one. From their new and extremely clunky animation system in the game that got in the way of just about everything, to the way machine guns worked, to the horrible assignment rating in the game, for the decision to not focus on any iconic battles ever, and to put Firestorm behind a paywall while their competitors now are launching free-to-play battle royales that are absolutely dominating the market. DICE's decision-making with Battlefield 5 has not only been wrong, but it's been obviously wrong, and it really shows a big disconnect between gamers and game developers, or maybe game producers. Who knows who's calling the shots over there? But I do know one thing for sure: they need to change the decision-making people over there for the next title. Now, I think one of the saddest things for me personally with Battlefield 5 is that I've spent hundreds of hours in Battlefield 5, like a huge amount of time. And part of that is, of course, because I'm a YouTuber, content creator, and I did a lot of streaming with Battlefield 5. And so I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into the game, which I might have not normally if I was just an average gamer. I probably would have put my time into other video games, but because I was covering content and this channel revolves around Battlefield, I put a lot of time into it. But compared to other Battlefield games, the memories and the really cool things that happened in my time in Battlefield 5 are so unmemorable and forgettable compared to the other games in the franchise. For one, I had very few friends that still played Battlefield 5. Most people who were hardcore gamers like me moved on to other games because Battlefield 5 really just wasn't pulling its own weight, and I certainly couldn't blame them for that. So I didn't have a huge amount of time playing with people I knew in Battlefield 5. I was mostly just playing solo, or with randoms, if you will. But the other big aspect of Battlefield 5 is that it really just didn't capitalize on those only in Battlefield moments, if you will. Like, I can look back on Battlefield 1 and think about a whole bunch of really cool moments where, I sniped people out of airplanes, or I threw a anti-tank grenade off of a horse and it hit an airplane in midair as it was flying overhead, or did these really cool moments where you jumped out or you're on the cavalry lancing people. I've got specific moments in my head from playing Battlefield 1 that I remember very clearly and very enjoyably. Same with many of the previous games in the franchise. With Battlefield 4, I remember moments on a dirt bike where Matimia was on the back and throwing C4 off the back, and we were taking out helicopters and stuff. Really cool stuff happened in those games frequently, and I have a lot of those memories, and they're great memories that I'll always go back to when thinking about those games in that franchise. Battlefield 5 really is going to be thinking about how much I hated the assignment system and grinding for weapon camos and buggy things not working and poor balanced decisions and crappy visibility. I'm not going to have a lot of good memories with this game, and that really sucks. And that's not to say that I've hated every moment of Battlefield 5 by any means. I certainly found the gameplay somewhat enjoyable at times, especially if I was playing exactly what I wanted on the maps that I liked the most. It certainly could be a pleasant experience, but there just weren't those crazy epic moments that the Battlefield franchise is known for. And I really think DICE lost their way with Battlefield 5 and forgot how to inject some of that DICE magic to this game. And that's something that absolutely has to return with the next next title. And as much as one might think that such poor performance and a poor delivery from DICE with Battlefield 5 could have ruined the Battlefield franchise forever, it really hasn't. Gamers are fickle, consumers are fickle. If DICE produces a great game and a great trailer for the next game, it'll be hugely successful and Battlefield could be back on top. It certainly doesn't mean it's the end of Battlefield by any means, but this is technically the end of Battlefield 5's support. You'll be able to play it in the future and there'll be a little bit more content, a little bit more maps, and maybe they'll work on anti-cheat. That's almost laughable at this point. But it doesn't mean that we can't look forward to the future of this franchise. I'm just going to have a much more cautiously optimistic approach to anything DICE makes down the road, because it's clear that whatever kind of magic they injected to the previous games wasn't in their latest title. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for in the next game. Can they get some of that DICE Battlefield magic back in there, and will it revive the franchise? We've got quite a ways to wait until that happens though, and there's plenty of other good games out there to play in the meantime. So as always guys, thanks for watching. I'll be covering the new content whenever DICE launches it, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.